Hey everyone, it's Rachel over at Moonlight Library. We're doing an unhaul today. This is part 2 of my little series where last time I did a book haul, now we're doing an unhaul so that we can fit everything on my shelves. I already took everything off that I want to get rid of. I also have this clip that shows you the shelves before I took everything off. I do have piles of books that were on the shelves that I had been taking pictures of, and this is like a month after I posted that book haul, or after I filmed the book haul, but finally posted it. And so here we are with a book unhaul. This is editing, Rachel, and trust me, you will see me again later in this video. I just thought that I should jump in here and talk to you about unhauling books and because I feel like every time I do a book unhaul, people are like, oh, don't just throw out your books, or like, oh, this and that. And please, like, give suggestions in the comments as to where you take your books, how you get rid of your books, because they're always very, very well needed. And I always forget to talk about this part is, yes, I do try and sell some of the newer ones because I want to be able to make some money back off of the things I've purchased, but I sell them to like used bookstores. But secondly, all the other books and any books that I can't sell, what I do with them is I give them to usually my local library, because any book they get donated, they put into their used bookstore, which through getting those books and selling them, they're able to afford more programming, more like classes and events and other materials for their collection, because they're not going to add everything to their collection, especially if you have older books or like dustier books or books that aren't in high demand, because there is like not room, and they might already own the book and like not demand for the specific book or something like that, but they can still make money off of selling it. Another one is with ARCs and stuff, I'll put them in little free libraries. I also sometimes just put books in little free libraries. Another suggestion is to give them to like charities or women's shelter specifically. There are all sorts of things that you can do with your books in order to get them into the hands of people that might not be able to afford them. So go ahead, add in the comments if you have any suggestions too. Thanks. So let's get back to the video and you'll see me later. I have a ton of books. So we're going to go through different categories that I have loosely created. The first one will be books that I've read that I didn't like, because I don't need to be keeping books that I didn't like on my shelves, or that I was just like ambivalent towards. I kept any book that I didn't like totally hated from this year that I read, so that I can at the end of the year hopefully do a "whoa, I hated this book" post or whatever. So let's start, and we're going to begin with I'm getting rid of Weather by Jenny Awful, and for me this book was awful. I'm so sorry, that was so mean. I'm not trying to be offensive towards anyone. If you love this book, that's you. That's your opinion. My opinion is I didn't like this book. And, you know, we all have different experiences reading books. And Weather was not it for me, but this cover, it's so beautiful. I hadn't gotten rid of it before because I was like, it's a beautiful cover. But I don't need it. History of Wild Places. This is like a cult mystery sort of book. I read it last year. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but it was like a mid-range book for me. So. By the Book by Jasmine Guillory. I read this one last year. You know, actually I have to look up whether I read it this year. But pretty sure I read it last year. And, you know, I just don't think Jasmine Guillory is the romance author for me. It just did not hit for me. I was not into it. It was, I don't know. Kiss Her Once for me. I read this over Christmas of last year. I was so excited to read it. But this main character just did not do it for me. It was too reminiscent of myself, and it was giving me anxiety. So that was not for me. Next is Anxious People by Friedrich Bachmann. I didn't dislike this book, but it also wasn't my favorite book, and my memories of it, my mom was reading it, and I was like, oh yeah, I like that book, and then I started talking to her about it, and I was like, I don't remember anything about this book. It went into the dumpster of my brain, and next is The Other Black Girl. I remember not really loving this book because the high action, like it's a mystery, sort of like thriller, intrigue sort of thing, but nothing happens until the end, and I was just kind of disappointed by it. I thought it was an interesting, I thought it was interesting in its approaches, but at the same time, it just didn't hit for me. I do want to watch the show though. I do want to watch the show. A Burning, this one, it was really middle of the road, and it's not something that I ever think about or bring up in my brain. I wasn't a big fan of this one. I don't think I really loved the romance here. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't my thing. What's Left of Me Is Yours by Stephanie Scott. I don't remember loving this. Like maybe I liked it, but my memories of it are don't keep it on my shelf. That's how it feels. Harlem Shuffle by Colson Whitehead. I loved Underground Railroad. Oh my God, I loved it. I haven't read Nickel Boys yet. It's on my shelf. I really want to read it. But Harlem Shuffle, crime stories? No, not Rachel. Not Rachel at all. Memorial by Brian Washington. I'm just scooting things. This one just didn't hit for me. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Just wasn't for me. Next up, that's it for books that I didn't like that I'm getting rid of. Next up are books that I either did or didn't like, but I'm getting rid of them because they're ugly on my shelf. That's it. They just look bad, so we're getting rid of them. Oh, it probably means that if I find a nice cover of it, or most of these are like pocket paperbacks, and I'm just like, I don't really like those on my shelf unless they look okay. But most of these don't. So we have Things Fall Apart. I love this book. I have a kitten now. She just came up and hit me. I'll maybe show you her if she comes over here again. Anyways, so Things Fall Apart. I love this book. It was wonderful, but it's ugly. It's an ugly cover. Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. Love Joe Hill. Big fan. Ugly. It is torn apart. It's torn apart. It should go in the trash. Pretty Girls. I don't like tall paperbacks. Get it out of here. Love this book, but get it out of here. No. Outlander. It's so tiny and so destroyed. It looks horrible. No. This is the worst cover I've ever seen in my life of Cabin at the End of the World. So, no, thank you. These colors, I hate it. Thousand Splendid Suns. I don't need it on my shelf. I've read it like 2 times, loved it, enjoyed it, don't need it. Gone Girl, loved it, enjoyed it, don't need it. I just it's not speaking to me. I have like a shelf. Okay, so I didn't explain this. I have a shelf at the very top that you never see that has all the books that I find ugly that I still keep, and I don't need that shelf anymore. That doesn't need to be a shelf. I can use that shelf for books that I like looking at because I want books that I like to look at. Next is Ian Fleming's Casino Royale. I think I remember liking this book. It was pretty good. James Bond. There you go. Next up is All Souls Rising. This one's actually signed, but it's like an old library copy. I got it signed by the author, but it's really ugly. Maybe I should keep it. Thanks for your work in the festival, because I had this book festival that I worked in, and he was there. So, cool. My copy of Fight Club is so gross looking. Like, what is going on? I don't even know. Yeah. Ew. What? I don't like it. I don't like it. Get it away from me. It doesn't please me. It doesn't bring me joy. The Postman, great book, very small. Ugly. Ugly. Mistress of Spices, great book. Love this book. Ugly. Ugly. I don't need it on my shelf. Tim O'Brien's In the Lake of the Woods. It just, like, it doesn't speak to me. It is so messed up looking. Time Traveler's Wife. I've read it 3 times for some reason. Don't ask me, but God, it's heavy. It's really heavy. They put a sack of bricks in this thing? My God. I enjoyed that book when I read it. The Pact by Jodi Picoult. I enjoyed it when I read it in, like, the 9th grade. Ooh. But I don't need to keep it. It's ugly. That's like my comment for all of those. Okay, next up are 2 graphic novels. Bloody Chester. I don't know what's going on here or why I own this. Next is The Best American Comics from 2008. Why? Why do I own that? I don't know. Now we have some young adult books that need to get out of my life. Won't even talk about that. Gross. Anyways, Hazelwood, I'm not going to read it. I've started it before. It's not happening. It's just not happening. I don't really read much YA. And the YA that I'm keeping, hopefully I will read it. We Are the Ants. I'm not going to pick this book up. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm sorry. When the Moon Was Ours. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. Okay, next up are books that have been sitting on my TBR shelf for a while, or that I bought with this like grand idea that I would read them when, girl, you ain't reading them. You're not gonna read them. Like, get it through your head. Brokeback Mountain. Why do I own this? It's so tiny. I think I was like, novelty. It's a movie tie-in cover. Gross. Girls Burn Brighter. This was a cover pickup. This was a cover pickup. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to read it. I know what I'm going to pick up and what I'm not going to pick up. And I have feelings. So Codex 1962. I think this was another, like, I convinced myself I would like this book because I thought it looked kind of cool. And I read the synopsis and I was like, you're not going to like that book. And I still bought it. The Great Believers. I did just read Rebecca Makkai and I enjoyed it. I read that new one, I Have Some Questions for You. Enjoyed it, but at the same time, this is not a book that I'm going to leisurely pick up. I'm not a big literary fiction person. I'm just not. I'm not. The Mars Room. Once again, convinced myself I'd want to read it. Things in Jars. This has been sitting on my shelf ever since I got Book of the Month back in like a long time ago. I can't even tell you. So it's been there forever. It's not getting read. The Remains of the Day. Nope. Exit West. I think I thought that someone was going to pick this for book club and they didn't. So, nope. Okay, I'm going to tell you that later. The Vor. I thought this looked interesting. I was like, cool. Really low ratings on Goodreads, and it just dissuaded me. The Reading List. This was a cover buy, and then I read the synopsis, and I was like, girl, you ain't gonna read that. You have no interest in that. Like, this is not the book for you. So we're getting rid of it. Boy Snowbird. I read another book by Helen Oyeyemi, and I've always wanted to read this book, but then I read that other book and I was like, I just don't like her writing style. I could barely get through it, and I don't see myself picking this up and enjoying it because I'm like, I really didn't like her writing style, so I couldn't see it being that much different. So Karen Slaughter. Karen Slaughter, The Silent Wife. I don't know. Don't even ask me. Autumn by Ali Smith. I went through a phase when I started posting on Bookstagram where I convinced myself that I was like all the Bookstagram girlies that were loving books like Autumn by Ali Smith, and this was all over the place, like winter, autumn, spring, now there's summer. I don't even know what it's about. I'm not going to read it. Not going to read it. The Inamorati. I've owned this book for 15 years. Okay, so these two books I bought because I was going to do a video where I read books that were romances that featured dukes. I'm not going to do that. It's never going to happen. I don't want to. Oh, here's my kitten. Hey friends, it's Rachel. So at this point I have unplugged my microphone in the video, but I hadn't even opened the footage until a week later after shooting this, and then I was like, I had already donated half the books, and like specifically the books we're about to talk about. So I was like, I can't even refilm this. So I'm just gonna have commentary on the side, and you're gonna love it. Anyways, so let's get back to my kitten and right back to the point where I've unplugged the audio. One moment. Okay, so here I am, and I've realized I like moved my cord, but I didn't realize I unplugged it. So anyways, that's Grandpa Rex Allen. She's a little girl, Calico, and she's a cutie. So let's get back to the books. I'm going to try and go through these fast. Okay, so we're still going through the TBR books. I did not re-look at this footage. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, so I have these two, Bringing Down the Duke and The Heiress Gets a Duke, where I thought I was going to make a Duke reading vlog. Wasn't happening. Then we have The Kiss Curse. Obviously, I'm getting rid of the X-Hacks. I'm being silly here. Who knows? I wish I could know what I'm saying. Serpent and Dove. This probably should have gone into the YA section, but I was reading Romantasy. I started it. I got a little while in. I heard the second book's not very good, so I was like, let's not even do this. So these are the mystery books that I have. Mainly Charlaine Harris. So I've already read both these books in this series, and I really did enjoy this series, but I just have too many books happening to have these. And then that's another Real Murders I never end up reading. It was also Charlaine Harris. Then we have Two Towers and Fellowship of the Rings. We're going into my fantasy / sci-fi area of books that I have. I don't really need these copies, so I'm getting rid of them. So this is Q-in-Law. It's a Star Trek book. Not going to read it. We have a Choose Your Own Adventure, Zork or something it's called. No. Diane Wynne Jones. I do really like her, but I'm just never getting around to reading this book. It's been sitting on my shelf for so long. Another fantasy book, King's Dragon. Who even knows if it's the first? Then a ton of Orson Scott Card. I did really enjoy Ender's Game. Speaker for the Dead's one of my favorites, but I don't really agree with him politically, and I just decided to get rid of all the books I hadn't read by him because I bought like all the books in the series and wasn't getting around to them. So next are nonfiction books, Hot Zone, then Rachel Hollis's Girl Stop Apologizing. Someone bought that for me. Splendid in the Vial. I don't know. Great Influence. Just not going to read these books. Now we're on to classics. Hamlet. I've read both of these. Turn the Screw and Daisy Miller. Love them. Haven't read this. Ayn Rand. I'm like getting rid of all of her stuff. And then Age of Innocence. Haven't read that. Eudora Welty's The Ponder Heart or something. I've read that. Cain by Jean Tomer. I did read that. Vineland by Thomas Pynchon. Have not read that. Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. Did not read that. It's been in my house, like, with me for so long. No, thank you. Mason and Dixon, Thomas Pynchon. Nope. This is Taming the Shrew. Nope. Absalom. Nope. Quicksand and Passing's amazing. I hate the cover, though. Ulysses, no. I haven't read that. And then V by Thomas Pynchon, no. Tropic of Cancer, no. Great cover, but no. Awakening, love this book, but I wasn't going to keep it. I don't really like the cover of it. It's not really a display thing. I don't know. Walls Come Tumbling Down, I have another copy. It was my mom's favorite book when she was a child. This is actually a fantasy, Black Cauldron, or Black, whatever, Hounds of Baskerville. Haven't read that. Emily Dickinson poems, sure. Watership Down, have not read that either. Devil's Dictionary, no. Oh my god, I'm going so fast. I think that might have been Canterbury Tales. I have read that, but actually it was Jane Eyre, and the second to last was Wuthering Heights. I think this is the end of the video. I didn't review this footage at all. I was just like, girl, we can do this. Anyways, thank you for being here. Thanks for subscribing, or be sure to subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate you. Thanks for staring at me, because we're both kind of chatters and we can't help it. I don't know, post like a feather or something if you got to the end of the video, because people write with feathers. And that just makes sense to me right now because of all the classics we just went through. So that's it. Okay, so I was like, let me put my headphones on to do this. And there's no sound. Why would I need my headphones on? I didn't need them on the whole time. Anyways, thanks for being here with my weirdness. Bye-bye.